Jake Hirschman here with Corinne Milien, here to talk about LinkedIn, and Corinne's part of the Winning Edge Leadership Academy. Excited to talk to her about how do you tell your story, build your network, what content should you be creating and sharing, how do you need to update it and how often, what are some of the different things that really separate yourself. That first impression is extremely important. We're going to use one of her game changers as an example, kind of to give you a perspective on someone that's younger, they're in college. How do they present themselves if they don't have as much to put on there from an experience standpoint? So, Corinne, welcome.
Jake, I am so excited to have this conversation. I wish more young professionals and college students took their LinkedIn more serious because it is a game changer. So I'm happy to have this conversation with you and share this knowledge.
Absolutely. So, one of the things with LinkedIn is because social media is so prevalent in our lives, everyone kind of goes to the Twitter, Facebook, Instagrams first, right? And that's always the priority because it's the social world, and that's your life, right? But then LinkedIn becomes like this fourth or fifth or sixth priority, and all of a sudden it's actually doing more harm to you by not having a good one than not having one at all. Obviously, not having one at all is not good because then it
No.
doesn't give you any benefit. But to not have a good one and just by having it doesn't really do you a justice or a service when you're trying to get connected with people, network, and find a job eventually.
Correct. And it's like your virtual resume. It's something that people, any job that you apply to, the first thing the hiring manager is going to do is Google you, right? And if your social media is you on the beach and or your LinkedIn, I'm sorry, your Twitter, your Instagram is you on the beach, it doesn't really speak to who you are as a professional, but your LinkedIn is going to give them more of a sense of the person they're going to be bringing in from an experience standpoint into their organization.
How do you tell your story with your LinkedIn? And we can kind of show an example,
Yeah,
um,
I love that.
because I think, again, telling your story is so important in the component of LinkedIn, because at the end of the day, um, you're trying to use LinkedIn as a tool to get that conversation, right? Or to start that conversation with someone.
Exactly. And I think with the Winning Edge Leadership Academy, we are working with student athletes. And if anybody knows about the student athlete, they don't have a ton of time to gain experience. And a lot of times they feel that they don't have as much confidence when it comes to starting out working because their resume doesn't have a ton of experience, so then when they come to their LinkedIn they don't embrace it as much. But I've pulled up one of our game changers. He's a volleyball player at Louisville, and she has done a phenomenal job with her LinkedIn and utilizing it to tell her story without having the 3 years of an internship or whatever. And if you're okay with it, I can start with Aiko's profile here. And I think right off the bat, this tells me this is somebody who puts effort into their LinkedIn. You see, there's a header shot. I think the header shot or the header photo is something that's overlooked a lot of times by people in their LinkedIn profile. It's usually that default blue thing with whatever LinkedIn has. But here's an opportunity to start telling the story. This is the first thing that people see is at the very top. And hers is very simple. It doesn't have to be something like life changing or whatever. This just tells you right off the bat she believes in amplifying Black stories, and she's a storyteller. You see from her title here: student athlete, aspiring content creator, and environmental biologist. So right off the bat, as a content creator, she's telling you that she believes in amplifying Black voices. So that is what a header should do for you. It should speak to who you are outside of your profile headshot. For me, I have like a picture of our like a group shot of our game changers. So you know from jump that I am someone who develops the next generation. So using the header space to give a little bit more color to who you are. This could be you and your team, you and your friends that are part of the student union, something that gives a little bit more color to who you are. Your professional headshot is the second thing people see, right? What kind of photo are you using? Is it something that you took from Instagram where you can't really see your face or whatever. And for Aiko, she did a phenomenal job again with her photo. You see her, you see what she looks like when you click on it. This is something that she got from her school. So if you're an athlete, take whatever you can get from the school, and if not, find a friend, get that iPhone out and take a nice portrait headshot. There's a lot of ways you can do that. Google is free, and Google will tell you, if you type in how to take a professional headshot from an iPhone, there are a ton of examples of how you can do that and how to make it look like you spent $500 on someone taking your professional headshot. And then just kind of going through Aiko's profile again, you see what she's straight off the bat. She's a student athlete, she's aspiring content creator and environmental biologist. This is what she wants people to know about her. And you don't have to guess, well, what does she want to do? You already know from jump, this is what she wants to do. And
Corinne,
yeah,
real quick on the title, because the title is an important one where she could have changed the verbiage to environmental biologist, aspiring content creator, and student athlete, right? But she didn't. She put student athlete first because that's what she wants to focus on. That's where your eyes go first, right? So how do you prioritize what's in the title if you have multiple aspects to it?
where do you want to be and what do you want people to know you as, right? So for her, she is currently playing volleyball at Louisville, so that's who she is right now. She's a student athlete, but what does she want to do after that? She wants to create content, so that was the next piece. And her desire to be an environmental biologist is something that I love talking to her about it, because it's like you don't hear that often. Like, oh yeah, I play volleyball, I kill it on the court, but then I also like the environment. And so it's something I always say, put the thing right there that's going to get people drawn into reading more. For me, I have servant leader who loves to grow her community through partnerships and development. That's who I am, and that's what I want people to know about me, is that I'm a servant leader. And so thinking about how you list it out, like you said, Jake, and what's more important to you right now, and then where do you want to be?
That's great. And that kind of dives into the about section, right? I think sometimes people take the about section for granted, but I mean, you can truly look, if people want to take the time to read it, they will. And so it's not, the about section is not like a resume or cover letter where someone's going to look at it for 2 seconds and then, skimp on, and you shouldn't put 6 paragraphs there. If you really want to put, a story there, put a story there, right?
I think I find it interesting to see different people and how they utilize the about section, and Aiko's done a good job here to just give you a snapshot of who she is. So you see that she's a student athlete and aspiring content creator and environmental biologist, but now you know she's driven and passionate. Now you know that she wants to use what she wants to use her degrees and how she wants to use them, and what she's doing right now. She loves to learn. She's a leader and a team player. She's open-minded, willing to work outside her comfort zone. If you don't have a ton of experience, you can't say, oh, I'm an experienced salesperson who's driven $10 million in sales. Like, you don't have that experience. So then tell me why I should bring you into my organization. Tell me the kind of person that I would be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Can you fit my culture? If I'm working at an organization that requires people to be a self-starter, then I want to know from your about section, can you work on your own? Are you a self-starter? Talk about the things that get people to give you a chance since you don't have the experience.
And I want to go back to something real quick that's about, just above the about, where you have the mutual connections, right?
Yeah.
Because that's something that's really interesting where, she has 132 connections. maybe those are very, you know, specific to people that she really does know, as opposed to just kind of connecting with a lot of people. And so when you go to connect with people and you have those mutual connections, someone might, you might click on those mutual connections, scroll through and go, oh, Monica, how does she know Monica? And then, you might, ask her, hey, how do you know so and so? And then she may go, oh, so and so is my mentor. Or she might say, well, actually, I don't really know her, right? And I think that's a critical component of just not adding people just to add people. I know that that's, again, people will have different preferences, but how do you go about it?
It's not Instagram, right? It's not about how many followers do I have, because you're not gonna get some fancy influencer deal from your LinkedIn. No one is gonna ask you to push weight loss tea on Instagram, right? But you definitely nailed it when you talk about the mutual connections. That's something that I look at when people reach out to me, like who do they know that I know? Maybe it's then, okay, let me pick up the phone, let me text Monica and be like, hey Monica, I see you're connected with Aiko. What do you know about her? Or I see, oh, she's connected with like 7 people from Louisville. Great. That means she's must be engaged and involved with programs at Louisville. Who you are connected with definitely tells a lot about who you are. And it's something that I've always said, it's not about what you know, but who you know and who knows you. And your mutual connections or your connections in general can really speak to that. And back to the mutual connections, it'll show you as well, like, are you connecting with people just because they are famous or high profile, or are you connecting with people that you should probably be having some type of relationship with? So when I talk to Aiko, I'm like, okay, I see you're connected with Shamari. Like you said, how do you know Shamari? Oh, I did this program with the ACC and they helped me out. If you're connecting with people, you should be able to at least provide some level of context as to how you're connected with them.
No, absolutely. It's a great point. And you go down to the kind of that experience component, right? The experience is usually going to help tell that story to where you might be able to connect the dots, right? Automatically. You might be able to look at her profile and go, oh, she was part of this, this, and this. She must know so and so, right? So when you look at the experience, obviously, student athlete, still a student athlete, there's only so much you can do in your time, as you mentioned. But what do you put that's most important to, again, she put women's volleyball team. Sometimes you don't see that, as you might just see it as like a little line underneath where the education is, but that's her experience. And then you can kind of go through, what that entails. So again, just dive into the experience and the education for us.
I think for the experience, you should definitely put links. Like, don't just have, this is what I did at this job, and then move on to the next thing. Utilize the links function that LinkedIn is providing, because it allows you to provide visuals or redirect people to projects or work that you've done. And I love here, she gave you a link to the roster, like, go see my roster page, go see some cool videos and pictures that they've taken of me, go see how many kills I had this season, go see that we were ranked. Like, give people something to show. She was our intern this summer, and she told you what her responsibilities were, but then she gave you, she shared what we shared about her on Twitter. And I'm going to get onto her, because she should definitely have shared a portfolio of the work that she did for us too. Like, show us how you assisted with the refresh of the branding image. Provide that branding guide. If you created graphics, give me a portfolio of those graphics. Anytime you could share work, anytime you could show people, don't just tell me, but anytime you can give people a place to go see what you've done, you want to be able to do that. And I always say too, don't be afraid to talk about yourself, but make sure it's factual. Don't say you developed the strategy that helped this organization raise $10 million if you just sat in a meeting and took notes. Be realistic about what you actually did and how you provided that information. And when you're doing that, it may seem like, oh, I only took notes, but use Google again and find synonyms for how you can say that. So coordinated meeting agendas for board members as they develop strategy to execute fundraising plan. Don't get too fancy. Don't use words you don't know how to use in your regular day, but use colorful words to explain what you did. Because again, what you're wanting to show is your ability to exceed expectations for an entry level or an intern. And by you putting the effort to not just say, carried groceries to the car or got water for my boss, but like maintained hydration schedules for an office of 30 people. Like I just, I was getting water, but maintaining hydration schedules sounds a little bit more fancy. And it's okay. You don't want to sound crazy, but you want to sound like you were proud of the work that you did, because wherever you work, you should be proud of that. And on the education piece, really quickly, she shared again some content that her school has done about her, and she shared her activities, what she was in. Like, put in as much information as possible. Nobody should try to guess what you're about, what you are doing on campus. Let people know. And if they have a LinkedIn page, like, put that on there, share, like redirect them to those pages so they can see. So like, okay, I clicked on Louisville, or if I click on so fast, student athletes of color, or the text me, all those things were Louisville, but give people a place to go see what you are doing.
Yeah, Corinne, I think, when you look at the volunteer experience as well, right, there's always ways to add to it. And I want to make this point clear. If you don't have it, go get it, right? Don't just like make something up just to make something up, because again, go out and get that experience. Not having it is more of a detriment than trying to figure out how you go and get it. And it could be a weekend thing, right? Like you could volunteer at a marathon, and it might be a one day thing, but put it on there, right? And it's just, again, those simple things that you can do.
And I think one thing that people don't realize too is every time you list something in experience or education here, when you go and get an endorsement, right? So you can go and ask people for an endorsement. And it's going to say, okay, you want an endorsement from Corinne. How do you know Corinne? Oh, okay. I did this internship with Winning Edge. Corinne is the executive director of the Winning Edge. Now I can get that recommendation from her. But if it's not even on your LinkedIn, you can't even ask someone for that recommendation. And that can be a game changer sometime. And I feel terrible because I haven't done my endorsement of her, but I will.
No, I think the endorsement piece is huge, right? And just, again, filling out the areas that are, most impactful. I think from a perspective of do's and don'ts, right? There's certainly going to be um, different aspects of a LinkedIn that are more personal to one than the other, right? And there's certain things that people want to share versus another. But I think when you think about the absolute don'ts, right? Don't put on as you mentioned, getting fancy with the wording, right? Don't put on things that you haven't done, because people will ask you about them. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you put on something fancy and then you go, oh, well, really, I just took notes, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't help your case in a conversation. So what are I'll just say, like, what are the three biggest don'ts in terms of LinkedIn?
Don't lie. Don't leave anything empty. Don't, uh, oh, oh, okay. And don't lie, don't leave anything empty, and don't undersell yourself. If you did the work, you did the work.
How often do you need to update things to where, you know, it's constantly changing? Like, you don't want to get a year down the road and go, oh, wait, I did these three things, because A, you might forget some details, and B, again, you want to make it as robust as possible.
Two things. So anytime you do something, go check your LinkedIn, make sure you're updating it. Whether it's I took notes at the local VFW, or I volunteered, whatever you did, go ahead and update it while it's still fresh in your mind, while you can connect with the people you worked with, all that stuff. And then updating it as a sense of sharing content. Like you don't have to write your own article every week, but go in there and see things that the people you follow have shared, reshare that, engage with those posts, celebrate, like, love, insightful. They have all those buttons at the bottom of a post to do. Really make sure that you're not a passive person on LinkedIn, because just like Instagram, it's an algorithm. The more you engage, the higher you come up in search, and it could be a game changer for you.
Yeah, that algorithm is interesting, right? And then, it might pop up that you should connect with so and so, right? The kind of the suggested to connect with, or and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, who's this person?" And then they just click on you to find out more. And again, it's that storytelling. You don't even know that people are looking at your story, but if it's not where it needs to be, you've lost that chance. Maybe that one chance that you needed to get in front of someone that could have helped you get to X, right?
Yes.
Um, so as you think about connecting with people, what's your go-to strategy in terms of actually hitting that connect button and actually making it impactful?
Be genuine, right? I never hit the connect button without adding a note. And the note is not a space for you to tell them your entire story, you know. It's like, okay, you hit the connect, you add a note. Hey, one strategy that I picked up in the last 6 months is anytime I attended a panel or something, I literally would screenshot every person that was on there and go on LinkedIn and connect with them and then say, hey, I saw you were on this, the panel hosted by Black sports professionals on DEI. I would love to connect. That's it. You're not asking for them for a job in that note. You're not asking them for 30 minutes of their time. You're just like, hey, I'd love to connect. Once they accept, your message pops up and maybe they'll say something back. Then you know you have an opening. Um, and I think it's really important to just not feel like every message you send has to be like, I have to tell them my whole story and I have to tell them I'm looking for a job. Like most people get, if you're in college, you're reaching out to them, you're trying to find a job. We get it already. So do something different. Hey, congratulations on that. I saw your organization just closed a big deal. Congratulations on that. That's it. If they replied, now you have the opening door. Now you have a door open. And for someone who got a job literally from LinkedIn, I'll tell you, it makes a difference to be authentic and genuine in your messaging.
100%. And I think the messaging is so crucial that when you do hit that connect button, back to the kind of the beginning of this, we talked about the title. That's what pops up. The title and your headshot pops up. So even just starting there, so crucial, so important. So Corinne, really appreciate your time on talking LinkedIn. Discussing kind of the different aspects of it, and ultimately putting it all together to tell your story.
Yes, and I will say when you connect on your phone, um, don't just hit the connect button because it doesn't give you the option to add a note. Go to their profile and go to message or something like that. It's a little different. On your desktop, when you hit connect, it asks you if you want to add a note, but on your phone, it just asks you to connect. And connecting with no message is not good.
It's a great tidbit. Great tidbit.
Yes,
Appreciate
yes.
it.
Thank you.
Green, thank you so much.
Hopefully Drake didn't distract anyone.
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate this. And anybody who wants to connect with me, make sure you send a note and tell me you saw me here.